The Vikings forged a code, a way of life that bound strength, honor, and destiny tighter than any chain of iron. Every traveler aboard carried not just tools, but a purpose to live by the code. For the North demanded not just courage, but soul. From childhood, they learned that strength was not simply power, it was discipline. To wield a sword was to carry the weight of one's people. In the frost and challenge, they learned resilience, the first whisper of the Vikings Code. Even the gentle knew that strength was sacred. They learned that the land gave nothing freely. Every breath of warmth, every bite of food, earned through persistence. Nature was both teacher and tormentor, shaping people who refused to bow. Only the strong and the honorable would thrive in the North. In effort, they found purpose. Discipline was not cruelty, it was legacy. Every scar carried a story of growth. They learned that strength meant standing together, not above one another. To live with fear was shameful. Courage was sacred. The storm was not his enemy, but his reflection. Even the ocean bowed to those who dared to face it. For courage, not comfort, was the highest gift a person could earn. Honor guided every choice, every word spoken before the gods. A vow was as binding as iron, and keeping it defined character. Respect was not demanded. It was earned through loyalty. For honor lived longer than flesh, longer than fame. Each mark told a story of journeys, ancestors, and oaths. Flame and metal fused their spirits into something eternal. They too bore the weight of his choices. It was more than steel, and it was legacy reborn. The fallen lay silent, stories and regrets alike. The gods watched every victory and every betrayal. He praised not for survival, but for strength to stay true. The greatest test was not against other men, but against fear itself. This was their truth, to live fiercely and pursue purpose. Each reflection was a reminder that life was fleeting, but meaning eternal. Even the heavens seemed to honor their code, a code born from ice and destined to never die. At the break of dawn, every Viking swore not to the gods first, but to his brothers beside him. Their unity was sacred, a chain stronger than any forged by mortal hands. Oaths bound them, blood sealed them. Even the skies seemed to bear witness to their vow. When chaos thundered and steel screamed, their oaths were tested. They fought not for gold or glory, but for each other. Every strike was a promise kept in motion. In his gaze burned not hatred, but devotion. Even in death, honor lived on. There were no tears, only the weight of remembrance. Symbols of brotherhood never rusted, even when flesh turned cold. Their spirits would feast in Valhalla, forever bound in glory. When war rested, they celebrated the living and the fallen alike. Stories were sacred. They gave the dead eternal life. Every drink honored a brother lost to the sword. In their joy was sorrow, and in sorrow, pride. The code was not always shouted. Sometimes it was carried in silence. Each mark told a story of sacrifice, of choices weighed by conscience. The true warrior was not one who conquered, but one who endured. For every victory demanded a piece of one's soul. When enemies rose, the code turned into living iron. Discipline, that was the heartbeat of the North. Fear was human, but breaking was forbidden. Their unity was both weapon and armor. Before every battle, they offered flame to Odin and Freya. Their prayers were whispered in smoke, fragile but fierce. He did not pray for survival, but for courage worthy of memory. Faith did not make them fearless, it made them unbreakable. Every man faced two enemies, one before him and one within. It was not weakness he saw, but the fear of forgetting who he was. He vowed to master himself before mastering any foe. The code demanded purity, even if it broke the man who sought it. Every generation learned that strength without honor was nothing. Through craft, they preserved the code, wordless but eternal. The North remembered those who stood by their oaths, for oaths carved in blood never fade in time. The sea was not a path to conquest, it was a test of spirit and endurance. Every creak and groan was a reminder, the ocean respected no man. To the Northmen, the sea was alive, a god that demanded courage as tribute. They followed it, believing Odin himself guided their course. When storms struck, only faith and skill held the crew together. Each man's strength kept the others safe, the truest form of the code. Fear was not weakness, and it was proof they were still human. Leadership was not about power, it was about trust. Every pull of the oar was a heartbeat of their brotherhood. They were bound not by chains, but by rhythm and purpose. Their world was simple: move forward or be swallowed whole. They were not conquerors here, only guests of the waves. When they landed, the world trembled, but not every voyage was for gold. Some sought survival, not glory. Even hardship had limits. Mercy was rare, but never forgotten. For some, the greatest victory was choosing restraint. The compass of the Norsemen wasn't made of metal. It was carved in faith. They trusted symbols more than maps. Each star whispered ancient guidance known only to those who listened. In their silence, they found direction. Every tool had a soul, and crafting it was a sacred act. Steel and man were both tempered by flame. A true warrior's craft was an extension of his honor. It was not a symbol of harm, but of destiny. When conflict arose among brothers, it was not vengeance, it was balance. They did not contend in anger, but in duty. Each motion echoed generations of pride and pain. Mercy was the highest form of strength. Farewell on the sea was considered the purest goodbye. They believed the flames carried the soul to Valhalla. In that reflection, a life remembered, never erased. Even endings obeyed the code. The sea, the craft, and the code, all one. He knew his journey would never end, only change. Legends were not born, they were remembered. And so the Vikings sailed on, bound forever by honor and the call of the sea. In the heart of every Viking burned a fire no storm could quench. The flames were their bond, their stories the fuel. The code was not written in ink, it was passed through flame and voice. And with each spark, another story was born. Fate, like steel, was shaped through heat and endurance. Each strike echoed the heartbeat of destiny. Even fate needed tempering. Chaos turned to order. Every warrior believed their path was carved long before the battle began. Before battle, oaths were sworn, not for glory, but for purpose. Each vow was sacred, binding the soul as tightly as any chain. They believed fire heard their words and judged them. To break an oath was to lose one's place in Valhalla. The fire that burned within them now raged without mercy. Battle was chaos, yet in chaos they found order. Fear was not their enemy, and hesitation was. Even the fiercest flames left behind regret. Victory often left nothing but ghosts. The code demanded strength, but it also demanded loss. They saw signs in everything. Omens whispered through ruin. Even conquerors grew weary of fire. Not all fire destroyed. Some guided. To them, flame was the breath of the gods. Each rune told a story of faith, power, and fate. In that moment, even gods seemed to listen. The strongest bonds were forged not in war, but in silence. Brotherhood was the truest fire of all. They knew tomorrow could take them, but tonight they lived. Even when the flame died, the warmth remained. To prove innocence or courage, they faced the trial of flame. Pain was the price of truth. They believed gods guided those with pure hearts. In the Viking world, even fire could reveal destiny. As long as their ships sailed, the Viking flame would never fade. He carried centuries of fire in his eyes. No storm, no sea, no death could extinguish it. The fire of the North, eternal, unbroken, alive. Long after their raids ended, their whispers still traveled with the mist. The sea had become their grave, and their memory. The warriors were gone, but their code endured in silence. Even time could not erase their fire, only hide its glow. Through story, their spirit lived on. Each carving was a memory made eternal. They learned not just of war, but of courage, loyalty, and fate. Our people, forgotten by kings, remembered by stories. The North began to change. Faith met fire. The old ways refused to vanish quietly. Even belief could find peace when bound by respect. Two faiths, one homeland, both shaped by courage. The blood of the North ran strong through centuries. Their heritage flowed into kingdoms and kings. Exploration never died. It only changed its name. Even the sky remembered them. The last of their kind rested beneath frost and stone. In their silence, the gods still watched. Some fires never truly go out. The North still breathes their name. Their spirit lived on in those who still dared. History turned them from raiders into legends. The call of the North still echoed through time. New generations, same fire. The weapon once soaked in blood now stood as a lesson. They didn't see savagery. They saw strength. The warrior's shadow lingered not in violence but in honor. Even now their presence is felt. Their code was simple: strength, loyalty, and truth. They believed that the sea carried their souls to Valhalla. Their faith, their fire, all returned to the gods. And so the North remembered its sons. The legacy of the Vikings burns not in war, but in memory. Their code lives on wherever courage exists. They were more than conquerors, they were dreamers of destiny. The code endures. For though centuries pass, the flame of the North never dies.